Hey guys, welcome to Mods episode 2. Today we'll be talking about wheels and spacers, and I'm Merlvyn.
And I'm Tengku Djan.
Okay, right here we have the steel wheels. Do you want to... Oh, it's quite heavy.
Yeah, there's many varieties of wheels. The cheapest option that's normally fitted to your production vehicle is normally steel wheels. So they are cheap to produce, but of course the downside is the unsprung mass. So they are the heaviest option which you can choose from in terms of availability of wheels outside.
I guess these kind of wheels are quite durable comparing the alloy rims, because when you hit a pothole, I heard they don't break, but they dent.
Yeah, correct, because they're steel. So steel basically has a higher density versus aluminum, and so hence they are stronger in that sense. But at the same time, with strength comes weight. So they are way heavier than your aluminum wheels. Your commercial vehicles like your 1 ton, 2 ton, 10 ton lorries, they normally run steel wheels. As you mentioned, that is correct. So they don't tend to crack. What happens is they tend to bend. So for example, if you hit a big pothole and you bend a wheel, the chances of you losing air pressure is way less versus an aluminum wheel. When it cracks, then you're definitely going to lose air pressure. So in another instance, if you talk about railing, for example, for a budget team, a steel wheel would be an option because it is the cheapest option. And again, as I mentioned, they bend instead of breaking or cracking, and the chances of you losing air pressure is way less. So this is also a good option for a rally car if you're on a budget.
Okay, so moving on to the cast aluminium.
Well, of course, the biggest difference is the material. So these are aluminum versus those which we discussed earlier, which are steel wheels. So with aluminum, basically you have to have a male and female mold, and they need to be casted, so which means the aluminum needs to be heated up, melted down, and then casted into the mold, and you get your aluminum wheel. So that's a cast wheel.
Oh yeah, before that, how do we select our wheels and stuff like that? What are the numbers for?
It's actually a very open topic. So if you talk about picking the wheel, there's so many options out there. But if you go by the OEM specification, that is based on the specifications which they have set on your vehicle out of the production line. So if it's a 15-inch wheel, then ideally is to actually maintain the same wheel size, because the performance and the handling, the stability of the car has all been developed around the wheel size which it has. But then again, you know, if you want it to look better, then you will go up in wheel size. A few things to note is, of course, the wheel arch clearance which you have in your vehicle. So if your car has been packaged with a 15-inch wheel, for example, it's highly unlikely you can actually fit a 18 or 19-inch wheel without it touching and fouling the components on the car. So it's difficult to quantify what is the ideal wheel size, because it really depends on your application, whether you are racing it or you're just putting the car up for display. But in terms of the digits on the wheels, so most of the time the numbers are on the wheels itself. It's normally on the back section or the back face of the wheel, or in this case on the spokes. So you have, for example, let's say for example for this is a 17-inch wheel, right? So which means the marking should be here somewhere. Yes, correct. So it's a 17 by 9. So 17, of course, is the wheel size measured in inches. By 9 is the actual width of the rim, also measured in inches. There's also a ET there, which is the offset that determines how wide the actual wheel is in terms of mounting position. So for this, in this case, it's actually a 0. So you have wheels that come in a plus or a minus. So that depends on where the face will be, whether it's a plus or a minus. Another thing to note is actually there is a kg rating on it, which is a 800. For example, this is 890 kilos, so which means the wheel can actually take the load of 890 kilos per wheel. So in most cases, aftermarket wheels have a way higher rating. Why? Is because it's to cater for a variety of cars. So yeah, that is basically the markings or the specification of the wheels, which you can determine upon purchasing. Yeah.
Okay. Another thing to note about is the 100, the PCD, the 100, 114.3.
Yeah, of course. So that is determined by the manufacturer also. So you have, well, you even get cars with 3 lugs, for example. So 3 mounting points, and it goes up all the way to 6. So your pickup trucks, for example, or your SUVs have 6 lug. On average is a 4 and a 5 lug. If you talk about passenger car, they come in variety of sizes as well. So 4 by 100, 4 by 114.3. The Europeans are also slightly different in their PCD sizing. If I'm not mistaken, BMWs are 120 millimeters versus Japanese on average are 114.3.
Just now you mentioned when the automakers give you a size, let's say a 15-inch, you shouldn't upgrade the size. Why don't we talk about performance-wise, application for performance-wise?
Well, again, it's also difficult to quantify whether going up in size is better or going down in size is better. It depends on the vehicle, depends on the performance which you have enhanced in your vehicle as well. I give you a great example. My E36 BMW, we started off with an 18-inch wheel option. It is a stock 3.2 engine, so it produces 321 natural aspirated horsepower. Yeah. So around Sepang on the 18-inch wheel, we were clocking, if I'm not mistaken, 234, 235. Yeah. All we did was, that means there's no changes in terms of setup. We didn't go up in wheel size, we went down in wheel size. We went to a 17 versus an 18, and immediately we got 2 seconds out of it. So we actually went 2 seconds faster. So it really depends. A lot of factors come into play: gear ratios, performance, the torque. All this is actually interlinked to optimize your vehicle. So going up in wheel size in general should actually give you more grip, but the downside is you actually have more mass. So the bigger the wheel, the heavier the wheel. So which means you need more power to be able to move the wheels faster versus a smaller wheel, and so on and so forth. So there's actually a lot of elements. But if you talk about visual, then of course a bigger wheel will look nicer on a car because it fills up the wheel arches. But it does not necessarily mean that you have a better performance out of it. It's again matching the characteristics of your car, which basically is the setup to the wheel size that you have chosen. Yeah.
Okay, moving forward, we have, this is our own rim that Djan, Mcclubz and Rexer came out with. This is a flow form rim. Okay, difference between a flow form and a cast alu?
Flow form is actually quite similar to forging. So your normal cast aluminium wheel is, again, the aluminium is melted down and then casted into a mold. Normally it's basically it's a gravity casting. So when you cast a wheel, there's a lot of, well, I wouldn't say there's a lot of porosity, but basically there is opportunity to have porosity in the wheel. So which means it also lowers down the strength of the wheel. So when you cast a wheel, then especially the barrel section, which is here, you would have to have a thicker design to be able to add back that strength and to ensure that the wheel doesn't crack and break under load or under pressure. So with flow forming, what happens is in the process of casting, it is actually heated up, it's spun, and it's using pressure from the machines to actually form the wheel and form the barrel. So by doing that, the material density is better because it's actually quite similar to the forging technique, and that allows you to have a thinner barrel. At the same time, it is actually, the material is actually stretched. So when it's stretched, it is also pressured. So the density of the aluminum is higher, which allows you to run less material or a thinner gauge to actually mold the barrel. So again, so that gives you a stronger wheel, but at the same time being able to make it lighter. Yeah.
Okay, the next rim is a 3-piece rim that everyone would love to have one of these on their car. This is by Works. 3-piece. Why 3-piece?
I mean, 3-piece was basically developed for motorsports. I believe how it first started is they wanted a very light wheel. So to have a very light wheel, there's another material which a lot of motorsports wheels use, which is magnesium. But magnesium is also brittle. So yes, they are light, but if upon high impact or high load, the chances of it cracking is actually higher, or breaking is higher. So the center portion of the wheel, they used to make it or cast it in magnesium, and to get a certain amount of strength out of the wheel is actually to run a 3-piece design where the barrels are basically separated and the barrels are aluminum. With a 3-piece wheel, you basically, because you don't cast it like your normal wheel, so the weight of the wheel is lower. How that helps also is with the 3-piece wheel, if you do damage the barrel, whether the inner or the outer barrel of your wheel, you actually can change the barrel to a new barrel and reuse the wheel again. Also gives you the opportunity to adjust the width of your wheel if needed. So for example, if you require a wider tire, you can either change the inner or the outer barrel so that you can accommodate for a wider wheel. So yeah, these are basically the history and also the benefits of a 3-piece wheel.
Okay, since we are at the topic of rims, I think the spaces are pretty relevant for this subject as well.
Yeah, correct. Generally, a lot of people use these spacers. There's many types of spacers available out there. Let's start with the most simple one, which is the center cone. So the center cone, basically, okay, when they design a wheel and manufacture a wheel, is to cater for a variety of cars. So same goes with the center bore. Yeah, the center bore for aftermarket wheels, generally they are made bigger. Because for different manufacturers they have a different size center bore. But this center section is actually very important to align the wheel onto the hub so that you don't get vibration and all that. At the same time is to share the load. That means you're not putting all the load onto your wheel bolts, but you're sharing that load between the wheel bolts and also the hub of the car. So this center ring is important. Every tire shop actually has it. So when you buy an aftermarket wheel, make sure that they measure the actual center bore on the rim and of course on the hub, and you can pick the right center cone that will fit perfectly into the rim, and that will allow the rim to actually center itself and sit nicely onto the wheel hub of your car. So this is actually a very important component when you change your wheels to an aftermarket wheel. Yeah. Next up would be wheel spacers. There's a few types of spacers, but generally you would find this in your tire shop. I personally would not recommend a spacer of this sort. Why? Is because again, as I mentioned, that center bore, the center cone is very important. So once you run this type of spacer which does not have a center ring to locate your wheel, that's where you end up getting vibration, and as I mentioned, you then transfer all that load from your wheel onto the bolts versus sharing it with your center hub. So ideally it's not to run these types of spacers. This would be a good spacer where you actually have the center cone built into the spacer that would allow your wheel to center itself to the hub as per the original hub of the car, and at the same time giving you the offset or the thickness that you need to match to whatever your setup is on your car. So to me this is perfect. Then of course this is the other option. So the other option is of course when you're going way wider, the bolts on your hubs are only of a certain length. So it's so the option is basically where you mount the spacer onto your hub with another set of bolts, and there's another set of bolts that is available to mount your wheel on. But again, a lot of people use this for motorsports purposes, where you're looking at widening the car a lot more, because especially drift, for example, because you've moved from 200 horsepower to 1000 horsepower, and you need to actually widen and thicken up the tire size to cater for the performance which you have now generated from your car. So this is a very extreme option, but again not the best option for road. So again, yeah, these are the spacers that's available outside. As I mentioned, ideally is to go and look for the right wheel for your vehicle, for the activity which you want to do with it.
Okay. I think that's about it about wheels and spacers.
So yeah, that's basically all about wheels and spacers. Again, I think the decision we as users make, it really depends on the application. So whether you pick a normal cast wheel or a 3-piece wheel or a forged wheel, it really depends on your budget and the application. So sometimes there's no need to go overboard, like for example getting a magnesium wheel for you to drive on a daily, because number one, it's super expensive, number two, it could be dangerous. So it's important to pick and choose the right wheel for the application. Again, don't stinge. and buy a copy wheel, for example, because that could be detrimental to the handling of your vehicle. There's a reason why there's a certain cost that comes with a wheel. There's a lot of design, testing and development that goes through it, as well as approvals to ensure that the quality of the wheels meet the road standards for different countries, for example. So again, tires, wheels, a very important component on a vehicle, because these are the only components that is connecting your car to the road. So be wise. Okay, so we've reached the end of our video. So we've covered wheels and spacers. The last episode we covered tires. Honestly, we want to leave it up to the viewers on what should the next topic be. So if you have any suggestions, just drop us a comment below. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to us, click the like button, and see you at the next video.
Goodbye.